Hey everybody, this is Chris DeFurio with Keys to the Shop. I hope you're having an amazing day today. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. I wanted to talk about the subject of lying. This is something that is, obviously titled in a way that's just like, what, lying? Are you calling me a liar? And more or less, I'm saying that all of us tend to do this, and there's a certain pressure we feel to lie, not just to ourselves, but to other people. And what I mean is this: when you're in a position of giving somebody some critical feedback, when you're in a position of somebody who's showing somebody how to do something, and you know that they're looking at you for validation because the learning process is very it's hard. You don't want to feel like you're floundering. You don't want to look stupid, and good luck with that, because we all look stupid when we're learning. We all feel like, I'm awkward. I don't know where to put stuff. I don't know where to put myself, especially when you're just starting out in a new position or a new cafe. You just feel in the way all the time. And what happens with lying is it's well-meaning, but deceiving encouragement. It's when people give you the line like, oh no, you're fine, or they say things like, no, that's good, you did good. Phrases like that. And there's lots of different ways that you can word these types of encouragements that mask the real way you feel. And I'm not saying that you should just lash out and say, like, how could you, like I've told you 4 times, don't do that. You're terrible. You're awful. I'm not saying to tell people that. I'm not saying to do away with being polite. But when being polite, when being nice equals not addressing a problem as it really is, and telling people that they're doing good when they're not doing good, then you're giving them false hope that they've achieved a level that they actually haven't achieved. This happens with latte art all the time. And there's other areas you could focus on. It's easier to use latte art as an example because it's kind of hard to learn right at first, and people put a lot of pressure on themselves to do it. I've worked with someone who used to be very encouraging to people about little, bits and blobs that come out, and they say, oh, you're doing so good. And it's just like that very cheery and loud, exuberant praise for something that in my eyes was just like, oh my gosh, it's not good at all. And that kind of level, like when you've already reached level 100, where are you going to go from there when they actually are doing good? Your tone's not going to change. You've maxed out your volume. You've kind of put it all out there for them, letting them know they should feel really good about what they just did. There is a place for allowing somebody to kind of stew in the tension of not knowing, of not being good at something. You can do that in an encouraging way up front by saying, this is going to be awkward and difficult. It's okay that it's awkward and difficult. You see the difference? You're not saying it's okay or it's good what you're doing right now. You're not falsely praising a level of skill that doesn't exist. You're letting them know up front, this is going to be slightly difficult, and I'm here to help you get going to the point where you can feel good about what you're doing truly, okay? I'd rather have somebody be frustrated that I'm not praising them and then praise them when they're doing really good, because then they know that they've earned it. They've reached a level of proficiency where I can just be honest about it and reserve some of my excitement for the time when they've really got it. And then they feel like, okay, now I do have it, right? Right? They trust you. They trust, as the trainer, they trust you to tell them if they're doing a good job or not. And I guess in some ways you have to figure out what good looks like. And you've got to have a scale of excitement that you give people. I mean, sure, if you're working on a heart and you start to see some signs that somebody has, broken the tension of the surface and they are starting to form what will be a heart, you can say, okay, that's good because you're just getting started here. That's, it's good that you're breaking the crema. That's what we want to see. Let's keep working on that. When you jump all the way to 11 in your praise and you give somebody the impression that they're doing better than they are, they're not going to grow as well as they could. And they're not going to trust your opinion because you always have great things to say to them. You always have the same amount of praise to give them, whether they're doing a mediocre job, a bad job, or a great job. So we need to be honest with those who are looking to us to help them learn the ropes, whether that's working on the cash register, hospitality, cleaning the bar, going through a closing checklist, whatever it might be, putting away the milk order. There's lots of opportunity for us to coach people along and to give them honest, critical feedback. Some part of us, I think, also feels like we just don't have the patience. We don't have the time. And it's easier to praise somebody in the moment than it is to remain critical or keep going, especially if you're a trainer. If you're a trainer and you've been at it for a long time with somebody, I don't think there's any trainer alive. And you might be that person. But I've felt this, and I'm sure everyone else who's trained somebody has felt this, where you just want to say good job and go home because I'm done. I am done. Now, years and years have taught me that a lot of that has to do with my own lack of ability as a trainer. But when you call it quits and say, okay, you know what? You're good. You know enough. Okay, cool. Back to the bar. Back to your manager where they're gonna take over from here. That is putting dysfunction into the cafe, and it's really selling the barista short. Whether it was because you were unprepared or, genuinely maybe this person shouldn't have been hired in the first place. Those situations happen, but more often than not, it just has to do with us as teachers, us as trainers. Are we doing the job well? And if not, sometimes it's reflected in these moments where we get frustrated and we want to basically lie to people about how good they're doing so that we can, say, yay, okay, great, I got to go home and eat some food or something, So I think this is a really big deal, not just for the trainer and trainee or manager and barista dynamic, a relationship dynamic, but also for retail coffee, also for our ability to tell each other the truth and to tell ourselves the truth about the quality of our operations. We want to declare victory too soon, oftentimes, whether it be something that we've instituted as a new drink on the bar or a new initiative or, a new cafe. Like if you open a second location and you call it a success before it's really matured as a culture or as an entity. There's lots of examples of where we lie to ourselves and tell ourselves that everyone around us is rock stars. Everyone's doing such an amazing job. We're doing an amazing job. Customers love us. Everything is great. This is just the way we are as people, I think. When you say, how are you? Somebody says back to you, I'm fine. This is an extension of that, but into business. We all know the truth. It's not really fine. Most of the time, there's a lot of things that are on your mind that aren't fine, but we kind of cover it up with the veneer of everything's going great and we have to be positive, we have to be encouraging all the time. No, we have to also be critical and face the truth honestly of what's happening. You don't have to tell somebody that their coffee is amazing when they ask you if their coffee is good. I know we're getting into some weird territory here where we're expected to tell somebody that their coffee is great. I know Becky Reeves had the bingo game going around at the expo in Boston, and one of the squares was that somebody gives you an espresso to taste and you tell them it's fine when it's not fine. That's a great example of what we do to ourselves and to others in the industry. And we can't really grow as coffee retailers unless we're willing to face the truth about our own businesses as well as the businesses of our colleagues. I think a great first step in these situations is to kind of scale back our knee-jerk reaction to lavish praise on anything and everything around us for the sake of being encouraging. Maybe you just kind of examine your motive for saying it and say to yourself, do I really think that? Do you want to tell somebody that their baristas are amazing and their service experience at the cafe was amazing when it truly wasn't? It's a lot more awkward to tell the truth, and it takes more time and attention to bring it up in a way that it's going to be received. It's a lot easier to just do the whole, no, it was great. Really love, I love the, you find something you love that's kind of on the side of, it's peripheral. It's not really, you're trying to get out of having to tell them the truth about it. We've lied to each other for so long about our coffee bars and about the state of service in the specialty coffee industry. This is how we get into trouble with the whole trope of snotty baristas. That's thankfully becoming less and less true. But we all still have work to do. And it starts with being honest and not lying to ourselves, not lying to each other. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope that some of this is ringing true for you. I'm not saying that it's an easy road forward, but taking the first step in being honest, supportive, and encouraging is going to benefit everyone in the long run. So we can do this with the best in mind for all of our peers and our friends and ourselves and our staff. And I think that's going to produce a more sustainable retail section of the industry. So I hope that this was helpful for you today. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you here next week for another edition of Shift Break, from keys to the shop.